They say motherhood is a journey, but let's be honest, sometimes it feels more like a roller coaster with no seatbelt. I bet you're like me, wondering why babies, or teens in my case, don't come with instruction manuals. Welcome to This Incredible Mom Life, the podcast that celebrates the beautiful chaos, quiet wins, messy moments, and everyday miracles of being a mom. I'm your host, Dummy, wellness coach, mom of 3 boys, and a passionate believer that you don't have to live at the mercy of PMS, burnout, or exhaustion. Join me every week as we hear the craziest and most unbelievable mom stories. I'll be sharing the huge accomplishments and triumphs of both our moms and their kids. We'll giggle, cheer on the kids, and discuss obstacles and lessons learned along the way. If you are struggling to be the best mom you can be, how open-minded are you to booking a free call with me? You don't have to live at the mercy of your cycle, and you definitely don't have to do it alone. Give yourself permission to let me be part of your support system. I believe that you weren't meant to just survive motherhood. You were meant to thrive in it. Every week, I introduce you to a new supermom, and today's conversation is one you won't forget. Canadian sexologist Dr. Trina Read is a best-selling, award-winning author. For 25 years, she has helped women in long-term relationships thrive after the honeymoon stage is over. The Sex Course is her #1 award-winning self-help fiction alongside its sequel, The Taboo Show. The award-winning You, Me, Bed, Now is a workbook and easy-to-follow 5-step program that takes women's sex from meh to magnificent. Interviewed by over 1,000 media outlets worldwide, Dr. Trina is known for her research-based, shame-free, and deeply relatable approach to desire, connection, and empowerment. Thank you, Dr. Trina, for taking time out of your day to be here with me.
Oh, I'm just so happy. I love talking to moms. They're my peeps. So happy to be here.
Yeah, and a lot of moms struggle in this department, I would say.
Oh, for
So,
sure. I just don't understand how we could not struggle in this department, right? We all have moments where we're just like, I don't understand what's wrong with me.
yes, so we're going to talk about that. But first, let's find out who you're a mom to.
So I have 2 sons, Andrew and Evan. They're 18 and 16. So I'm almost at the end of this mumming journey, but not like, no, not quite. I'm sure they're going to be in my house until they're 25, which is fine, which is fine. And so both my children are gifted, which means they needed extra parenting when they were younger. So I had to take a sabbatical from my career for about 7 years while we were in that phase of them needing extra parenting. So, at first I was resentful about that, but I realized it was the biggest gift that I could have ever had. I have such a wonderful relationship with my 2 sons now because we did that.
Nice. I have the same. I was a stay-at-home mom for almost 10 years. And now I work from home, so it's nice.
It is nice. And I'm just really grateful that we can work it this way.
Awesome. Well, share a story about your boys.
Well, related to what I do, I drive my kids to school. And so the car has always been our safe space. So they can bring up whatever they need to bring up in that moment. And, when they were both 11 or 12 or 13, they started bringing up dating and relationships and sex. And there were 2 things that were going through my head as they would start bringing these things up. The first one was inevitably we've got 5 minutes to go until we get to school, and this is a 20-minute conversation. Why didn't you bring this up at the start of the drive? Like, why now? So, like, and the second thing is, even though I'm a sexologist, there was never a good time. It was all like I was never ready to have this conversation. So, like, there's me hanging on to the steering wheel, thinking, okay, we're here now and we're going to do this because research shows that kids want to get this information from their parents, right? So they can easily go on the internet and there are a lot of excellent age appropriate educators for kids like Go Ask Alice, like on YouTube. But research shows that kids want to have their parents' values and morals. And so this is just a really good opportunity to, share what you believe about this topic, right? And they want to hear. So it's it's never going to be easy. It's always going to be awkward, but when we can have these conversations with our kids, we are setting them up to have healthier relationships with themselves and with potential partners.
Yeah, as a mom of three boys, I totally appreciate that. So I think our days are coming soon to have those
Well,
conversations
and
also.
the other thing that I thought was really interesting is how my two boys wanted to hear the information was completely different. So my older son is extremely analytical and he just wanted facts and figures and and my other son, when he decided he was going to have this conversation, he wanted to go down the rabbit hole. He wanted to do a deep dive. And there were many times where I said to him, I'll tell you this information, but I don't think you're ready for it. So the moment that I said that to my older son, he'd be like, okay, like the conversation's done. I trust you, mom. But when I said that to my younger son, he's like, I want to know. And so I was sharing information that like I said, I don't think you're ready for this information, but I knew if I didn't tell him, he would just go on the internet and find it anyway.
Yeah,
So it was better coming from my mouth and so I think that what I learned from that is, it doesn't, as parents, we have a way that we want to tell our kids about this, but we have to understand how they want to hear that information and if that makes sense.
yeah, no, that's such an important point because each kid has their own personality, their own learning style, right? Their own way of
Yeah.
absorbing the information, um, and learning from it. So I love that. So tell us a little bit more about what you do.
So I'm a Canadian sexologist and I help couples, primarily women, but when I speak to women, but actually what I'm doing is I'm speaking on behalf of women. So I'm saying to partners what women want to say but just don't feel comfortable saying it. So that's my job, is to be that podium for women to say, hey, you know what, in order for me to want to do this, these are the things that need to happen. So, all my life, all my career, not all my life, but all my career, what I've done is I've just helped women understand what she wants in the bedroom and then ask for it. And if there is like a number one reason why couples don't have the intimacy that they want or deserve, it's because women don't feel like they can speak up and say they want something new or different. And then the third part of this is I help women lean into the pleasure that she asked for. So what we do not discuss is women are taught to push their pleasure away. Don't you can't like intimacy too much or too little. Like you can't get an STD, you can't get pregnant, you can't you can't like something too much. Like you can like it just a little bit, but you can't like it too much because then it's then you're labeled bad things. So I would just say that I my job is just to help women understand and give her permission and to raise her up to say, hey, you can and want and ask for more. And the thing that always astonishes me that women just don't feel comfortable asking, but our partners are like, please tell me, just tell me please just tell me what you want. I want to know. And so, we have these completely different dichotomies and we're trying to negotiate this and like it's complicated and it's nuanced and I get it. So that's a really long answer to your very short question, but that's what I do.
Excellent. I love it. We have not had anybody talk about this topic yet, so we're going to dive into it today. Um, so I know we were talking about moms, right? And once you have the kids, your life gets busy, you're not sleeping, you're stressed out. So a lot of moms, their libido tanks.
Oh, for sure.
So talk about that a little bit, like what happens, why it's so low, why it's non-existent.
Yeah, so there's a fallacy that, when you meet the one, this idea that you can spend 40, 50, 60 years, spontaneously looking at each other into each other's eyes and be like, hot dog, I'm ready, let's go, like it. And I'm not sure where that myth came from, but, throughout our life, just as our life evolves, so does our personal intimacy and our partnered intimacy, like it. So something we do not discuss is how sexuality is an evolution. And so there's going to be ebbs and flows. And when we're in different seasons of our life, specifically being a mom with younger kids, that's a season of our life where there's just so much pressure coming at us that there's nothing left in the tank. And yet the standard that society sets for us is that, yeah, of course you can be that and also be sexy and like, of course, like who, like, and so we're like, well, what is wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you. But I would say that I would start taking a look at the different factors. So, like, are you in a season of your life? Are you in perimenopause or menopause or, motherhood? Like these, if you're, pregnant or breastfeeding, all of these are affecting your hormones, which you are, Amy, you are way more of an expert on this than I am. But like, so when your hormones are doing a roller coaster, of course it's going to affect your libido. And if you're on certain medications, like even like medications you wouldn't even think about, like if you take an antihistamine, it dries things out, including your intimate areas. So like, suddenly what you're like, well, why is this things hurting all of a sudden? And it might be because you're on an antihistamine. So there's medications that we're on, and then there's, outward factors, which you were talking about, like the daily stress of being a mom, of, having to plan the lists, of having to plan the suppers, of having to plan everything, you know, and this idea of being touched out, especially when our kids are young, it's a real thing. And we are, when we are at that stage with little kids and we're constantly being touched by these kids, we're touched out and there's just no room for desire. So, even though low libido or a flatline libido or a non-existent libido is a real thing, I think what's important to remember is this is just a snapshot in time. It is going to get better. So a lot of women think, well, that's it for me. Like my libido's gone and I guess that's that. But and I mean, it's easy to stay in that space.
Mhm.
But if you plan to be with your partner for 30, 40, 50 years, a big part of that partnership is having that intimacy, having that emotional connection, like, and so when you're in that moment, that season of low libido, there's still things that you need to do for yourself and for your partner to make sure that when you come out of that season, you can still be connected with each other and not just living with your roommate.
Nice. I just thought of something. So we always talk about the women and their hormones and perimenopause and all this thing. Do the men have anything similar as they approach mid-age and things like that?
Oh, for sure. And we don't talk about it. Like there is a thing called menopause. Like it's true. And men's testosterone drops dramatically. Their bodies don't function the way that they used to. Uh, the thing is, men have things in place like Viagra
Yeah.
and such, to help them with their situation, whereas women do not.
Hmm.
So, I know this is completely off topic, but, they just in the last 6 months have a complete image of what a woman's nether parts looks like. So they've had this with men for, I don't know, 70, 80 years,
Yeah, a long
but
time.
and they were able to do the imaging of a woman's nether parts and figure it out, but they just didn't. So, you know, so I think this idea of women's pleasure has always been sidelined, so for sure, men, men also face a lot of challenges. And I'll just put this in because this is such an important PSA. If your guy, so when a man loses his erection, it is usually the first sign of something else going wrong with his body. So if he has, type 2 diabetes, or he's got a stroke or something like that coming on, or like, so men are so ashamed of having lost this that they do not talk about it and they will not see their doctor. But this is usually the body's signaling to them that something bad is going to happen. So this is a really important moment for him to go see a doctor and
Yeah.
and talk it out.
Well, I think that connects back to the women too, because when our libido drops and this night we just don't feel intimate, we think that's normal, right? We think that's just a part of aging and growing older and this and that, where it also could mean that your hormones are off, right? It could mean it's time to manage your stress or,
Well,
do other things.
it really is how you approach the intimacy, right? So, I just feel like in our Mother's Day, our mothers would hit perimenopause or menopause and be like, okay, that time of my life is over. And she cuts her hair and she puts on a muumuu and she's done. But our generation has very different expectations about what intimacy looks like, into our 60s, 70s, 80s, right? So now there's an expectation that we do our best to keep that going. And the thing is, what nobody talks about is, even though when you're in perimenopause and menopause, there are a ton of hurdles that you have to overcome.
Mm.
uh, Women are so much better at asking for what she wants and leaning into what she asked for. So like this is like the cherry on life's cake here, like, because this is the moment where women actually are starting to, say, hey, I want something, and their partner's like, hot dog, let's do it, right? So our bodies aren't perfect, the situation isn't perfect, but we're finally, you know doing what we want to do. So I think, like, you can look at perimenopause and menopause as our mothers did. It's like, well, it's done. Or you can advocate for yourself and make it the best time of your life.
There you
And that
go.
and
I
I'm
love
not
that.
and this is not hyperbole. Like, this is the truth.
Nice. Is it a mindset issue also?
There's a ton of mindset, especially when it comes to moms, because uh, the way we're taught to have intimacy is very male centric, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's fine, but because women don't ask for something different, we keep having the same intimacy over and over and over, and we get bored with it.
Right.
uh so like, and we walk in. So, the mind, I always say to women, pay attention to your mindset before, during, and after. So when intimacy is initiated, you're like, well, what's the point in having this when there's nothing in it for me? Like, this is all about my partner. So, like, I'm just there. And, so, like, that's a really negative mindset going in. And we all have had it. And
Yep.
there's no judgment here because I've certainly experienced that. And then when you're in the moment, the majority of women in long-term relationships have what is called a delayed sexual response, meaning it's going to take her a moment before her brain settles down and her body and catches up to her body's arousal.
Mm.
And generally speaking, it takes between 10 and 15 minutes for her delayed sexual response to catch up. So in that time when you're sitting there, I think, like in that delayed sexual response, you're like, nope, I'm not there. Nope, I'm not there. Nope, this is doing nothing for me, And we say things like, well, just skip me. You go on to the main event, right? And so they do. And
Yep.
so they do. And then you're like resentful that they did. And, so by the time things are ending, your delayed sexual response is just coming to a close, and you've caught up, and then you're like, but this is over now, like it's over.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then after you're like, well, why that was such a waste of my time, like
Mhm.
like it was such a waste of my time. I could have been reading or watching my favorite book, whatever. So I feel like, when we're able to turn that mindset around to, what, I don't know how, at the start, I don't know how this is going to go, but I think it might go well. And when you're in that delayed sexual response, you're like, you know what? I am going to fight for my pleasure. I am not just going to skip myself. I'm going to like fight for myself now, and hope that I can catch up. And then afterwards, say to yourself, that was pretty good. So like, to turn this mindset around, it's not complicated, but it does take you actually actively saying, what went well in this instead of what was bad about this.
Yes. So you have a checklist called Are You Sexy? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so if you go to my webpage, I've got a whole page of freebies. But I thought for this particular podcast, it would be fun because I feel like moms just never feel sexy.
Yeah.
And so this checklist is something you do with your girlfriend, your gal pals, you're drinking a couple margaritas, and I set this checklist up so everybody wins, because every one of us is sexy in our own way, and it's not just about looking good or dressing some way. It's about who you are and what you do and how you show up in the world. And I promise you, there's at least 3 or 4 things on this checklist that prove you are sexy, but it's just allowing yourself to say, well, maybe I am sexy. Maybe I could be a mom and be sexy. So I think it's, you already are, and this checklist will prove it. And then you have to like change your mindset to say, okay, maybe I am.
Yeah. I love that because so many moms, they don't see themselves as sexy anymore after they have their kids. They're,
No, we see ourselves as asexual, like we
yeah.
have, just, invisible, and we're
Yeah.
not. We're
Yeah.
not.
I used to feel that way too. So I get it. um, Amazing. So if people have questions or they want to connect with you, where can they find you?
So I have two resources. First is my YouTube channel. There's over 400 videos on my YouTube channel that answers all your questions. And also I have a Substack. So again, on my Substack, I have products that you probably want to try. I have information, so there's a lot of great education for women who want to connect with themselves and also want to
Mhm.
connect with their partners.
Love that. Well, this was very informative and very necessary, I think, for a lot of couples. So thank you, Dr. Trina, for joining me.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Yes. And if something in today's episode felt like a mirror, don't ignore that. Your body, your mind, your heart, they're always communicating. And you deserve support as much as you give it. Thank you for being here, and you will hear from me next week.
Are you struggling to be the best mom you can be? Are you fatigued, overwhelmed, and stressed out? Are you losing precious time with your family because of PMS? If so, sign up for my free gift on how to start living in tune with your monthly cycle. The link to get it is in the show notes below. Use this guide to help you start to eliminate your symptoms of PMS, increase your energy, reduce stress, and fully enjoy this incredible mom life. The way I see it, you have 3 choices. You can try to figure it all out on your own. you can do nothing and stay where you are, or you can get the customized guidance you need to thrive as a mom. The choice is yours. Thanks for listening to today's episode. I hope you learned something from these stories. If you enjoyed this show, please make sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast. It really helps this show grow. If you have a mom story you would like to share, click on the link in the description below on becoming a podcast guest. Remember, the content on this podcast is for general information only. It does not replace any medical advice given by your healthcare providers. Please check with your doctor if you have any questions about your specific condition and before starting any new diet or exercise regimen. Thank you, and you will hear from me soon.